Good morning, everybody. I introduce myself. First of all, my name is Concha Salvador. I am Spanish, as you can see from the flag in the middle of the street by my picture, and I've been a STEM ambassador for about 6-7 years. I am a pharmacist, and this is my professional journey in pictures. It's better to see everything at a glance. So I studied in Madrid, pharmacy. It was 5 years at university at the time. And the last 2 years were specializing in a branch. You wanted to make it a deeper knowledge. And I chose sanitary and industrial. So it dealt more with the infection side of things and the pharmaceutical industry. When I joined the Department of Microbiology after I graduated, I wanted to do some research in microbiology. And as you can see, the main picture on the top is a microscope, which is the key tool when you work in microbiology, a way to identify bacteria or fungi. Fungi is molds and yeast. In microbiology, there's lots of fields, as you can see at this part of the screen. Medical is one, which is more to deal with infections. Virology is another one, quite different to the medical itself, more based maybe in antibiotics, infections. Virology is a very specific side of the microbiology because you use different techniques which are not used in other areas within microbiology. Now is very well known because of the COVID-19, and is very happy to see that everybody has been made more aware of the importance of science and doing research and trying to get vaccines as quick as possible so the patients can be treated and we can lead a more normal life again as soon as possible. As you can see here, antibiotics, that's an area of great concern in society or in the health professionals at the moment and for some time now because of the abuse of the use in antibiotics. You have to be very careful to follow what the doctor or your GP says when you get antibiotics prescribed, because if you take too many or if you too much or if you take too little, you're not doing yourselves or the humanity any favors, because that's what creates a resistance to antibiotics. And maybe some diseases which are nowadays very simple to treat, easy to treat, could be maybe untreatable in not a long distance, and maybe get a lot of people dying because of not being able to be treated for simple infections. Maybe now respiratory tract infection like pneumonia or bronchitis now is treatable easily, but it may become untreatable and a lot of people could die because of that resistance to antibiotics. So everybody has to work together, because even if you are responsible and use your antibiotics as directed, if other people don't, that affects to the bacteria in general. So they become resistant. It doesn't matter if you are the ones treating them or not. And other things, pictures that you can see here, there's the microbiology studying plants, the different morphology, shapes of bacteria or fungi you can have. And this is some fungi growing on soil. And this is very important for food microbiology. I did a lot of food microbiology as well while I was in the university from the side of the quality control of food. There was an outbreak with rapeseed oil, which was not good for human use, and people not knowing had it, and there were deaths in Spain at the time. And as a result, they were more conscious about food microbiology, and we got a lot of analysis from external companies analyze their products before putting them in the market for people buying them in the supermarkets, for example, or in the pharmacies. So I've been involved with cheese analysis, sugar, cosmetics from well-known companies as well, actually. And then they gave me a very nice bottle of perfume, as well as paying me for the analysis, which was nice. I've done water analysis, machines to show that they can pasteurize milk. Pasteurization is a way to eliminate bacteria from the milk. That is still used these days very commonly. Purification of water, many things, and it's all cakes, drinks, very wide variety of food I've been analyzing while I was there. You can see here in the middle of the screen what is called a petri dish, and that's a way to see what the bacteria or fungi look like. Those are colonies, so they're not single cells. There's not one bacteria or one fungi. It's a colony of them, a huge number. One, you couldn't see it with a single eye. You need the microscope to see it. Here, there's some techniques that you use as well with the microbiology department. A lot of pipetting, making solutions to dilute samples, and then take smaller samples to have a look at it. And also here, you can see clinical analysis. And the reason is there is because the microbiology department I was part of also was part of the School of Clinical Analysis within the university, and because I was helping with the teaching there, I was given the opportunity to do myself or train myself as a clinical analyst, so I got a diploma at the end of a couple of years as well. I was very active. I was doing my own research, but I was also helping in practical lessons to other students, and helping the department with the collection of bacteria they had, for example, to have new growth and keep it going in a good state, and anything that needed. Here, as you can see, is parasitology. This is what the head lice looks like. I know most of you, if not everybody, would have had it. And the reason why I put it here is because as part of my research and my work in microbiology, I got a specialization degree or qualification. So I am a pharmacist specialized in microbiology and parasitology. The same as a doctor can be specialized in pediatrics, which is to deal with children. I am specialized in this field. As part of the food microbiology as well, I was teaching pharmacists in Madrid, in the School of Pharmacists, or the Association of Pharmacists in Madrid, and they were post-graduated graduation courses, and I did that for a few years. So it was very specific to food microbiology, about 2 weeks worth courses. And that was very good as well, because there was a lot of work preparing all the media, the culture media for the different bacteria to grow. And then you were teaching pharmacists to be able to identify different how do you call it? Contamination you would find in food, which is very useful and very common. Some are very, they don't produce a disease, but others can. So you have to be careful. But cheese, for example, when you see the little mold, greenish, that's called penicillium. That's the mold that produces the penicillin, the antibiotic. So I'm not telling you that you can eat it when you see it and eat as much as you want, but you can just scrape a little bit of that portion of the cheese, and the rest is perfectly fine to eat. So from there, from the university, I decided that I wanted some better economic independence. I was living at home at that time, and I was offered the possibility to apply for a position as quality control manager within a manufacturing site where they did antibiotics and allergy vaccines, and I applied for it, and I got the job. I was very pleased because talking with my boss later on, he told me that we were 3 people at the end, at the last stage, and the other 2 people had experience in the pharmaceutical industry and I hadn't, and they were 2 men and I was a woman. So they gave me the job to me because my boss thought I was the best prepared and had the capability to grow, and I have experience in the field that I could contribute to improve the way they worked in the industry. Sorry, I was drinking a bit of water. So there I I moved from working independently. Basically, when I was in the university, everybody did their own projects, even if we worked together for some practical lessons to the students, to be leading a team of people. And it was a complete new area for me for many things, not just to be responsible for a team of people, but I also had to work with budgets to see how much money we had and distributed during the year, so we could see how much we could buy in reagents or anything you would need, chromatography columns, any tools or reagents you should use during the year. You have to think about in advance. So I had a very supportive boss and taught me all the things that were new to me. How to deal with people, that was different as well. I had a young team and it was good. We got on very well, and I applied some of the techniques I learned when I was at university, became useful, and I applied them in the pharmaceutical industry. I learned a lot of be innovative when I was at university, because once you run out of money, you had to invent ways to be able to move forward and continue to do your work. So that was very useful afterwards in my life in other areas that I've worked in. At the manufacturing side, I was quality control manager for the microbiology and pharmacology area. Pharmacology studied, for example, visible particles in liquid or solutions, for example, in injectables. That's a test you have to do to make sure there's nothing that shouldn't be there, but you can see either with your eye or you would use a magnifying glass as well, not as potent as a microscope, but with a certain augmentation. We would work as well with animals. At the time we had rabbits, guinea pigs and mice. That was to study toxicology, to make sure, for example, that the product you were given to produce the antibiotics didn't show any toxicity, so the animals were not killed at the dosage that we would be using or equivalent in weight in a humans later. I never had any mice dying because of that. Guinea pigs were, for the same reason, used as well for toxicity studies, and the rabbits were used to see if certain solutions that you would be using for injectables were producing in themselves some temperature, high fever, and that's called pyrogenicity, so for pyrogen tests. Later on, we got rid of all the animals and we were able to use chemical tests instead. And to see the temperature producing maybe from some solutions. We had also a chemical technique that is nowadays used everywhere for that matter. After a while, a couple of years, I took responsibilities for the chemical analysis as well. And that's why I put here, for example, this picture where you can see working with pipettes and solutions changing colors. If you're working with acidity and basic products, you can use some reagents that will change the color once they reach a certain degree of acidity or basis pH. In the manufacturing place, I worked with injectables. We had a sterile area. You can see people dressed very specifically. Those attires were sterile, so you had to have certain ways to get dressed or changed, so you don't introduce any bacteria into the sterile area. Sterile is very, very clean with no bacteria or germs and fungi. And these are some sort of machines, apparatus that we would use in the laboratory. There I spent about 8 years, 8 years, and I got married. And my husband is Scottish, so we decided that it would be better for me to move to England because I could speak the language. My husband couldn't, and still can't. And one thing that helped me as well, I've always worked in pharmaceutical industry, multinational, is languages. If you know foreign languages, it's a big help these days if you want to work in multinational companies. As I put here, as well as your work, you would have a possibility to do some foreign travel paid for. You can extend it and then pay for yourself for a long weekend and things like that. But I have been traveling for Europe quite a lot, even India or the US. As well as science, I've always liked languages, and I'm telling you, it's a very good tool for you to develop and to give you more possibilities and open doors for you if you want to progress and interact with colleagues in other countries. I know that in my area, in pharmacy and the pharmaceutical industry, the language used internationally is English. But I've come across colleagues of mine in certain countries where they don't speak very good English. They're not confident with talking in English, and it has helped to get a very good rapport and good relationship with them when you make the effort and talk in their language. So I would encourage you as well to learn foreign languages because you would find it very useful and would open more doors for you when you try to look for a job. So when I moved to UK, to England, I managed an internal transfer. So I was working in a multinational company, as I said, and I had been interacting in international projects, and I got on very well with some people in the European team, dealing with different sites in different countries. And they advised me about the need of somebody with my experience in a manufacturing site to join a department which is called Regulatory Affairs Department. I did an interview, a couple of interviews, and I was offered a position within the Regulatory Affairs Department in the same company. It was a British company, actually. Now it's a bigger one because they have merged several times, and it's now what is called GSK. Some of you may have heard it, GlaxoSmithKline. In this regulatory affairs departments, what we do is we are the link between the pharmaceutical industry and the health authorities. So on one way, I've put this double side arrow because we interact with the health authorities worldwide, because I was in a worldwide department, so a global. And then on another way, I've put this other arrow here because we interact with many functions within the company. And we have to negotiate the conditions we want for some medicines with the health authorities, but also with discussions internally to see the reasons why we would want one thing or another within ourselves, within our company. So what does the regulatory affairs department do? Is when you want to register a medicine, you have to do work for 10-15 years very easily. So it takes a long time before you see a medicine in the pharmacy. And in that time, what you have to prove is that it's not toxic, so it is safe. And for that reason, you'd use tests in animals that would behave in the body functions similar to humans. Then we would do clinical trials, which means that once you see the product is safe, you start trying with people who are healthy. So you usually use male, so men, and healthy young volunteers, we call them. And once it's proved that nothing strange happens with people who are healthy, then you start using patients for which you are hoping to treat the disease. And then you start with smaller groups, and then when you see the results and that there's no adverse events, as they are called, there's no strange reactions or secondary effects, we are called them as well, then you would use bigger groups, and then you could have a big scale using many hospitals, different countries, and many patients. But before that, you may have worked with maybe 3,000 or thousands of potential molecules that could have an effect based on the structure of that molecule. Certain parts of a molecule can tell you that this particular product could be effective to treat Parkinson's, or a particular other group you would say that it's got a potential as an antibiotic, and so on. So that's why it can take 10-15 years very easily to get a medicine for patients to use safety and with efficacy and a good quality. The third part of the product, the department of the dossier that you present to the authorities is quality. And that's where I was working to start with, because of my background in a manufacturing site, and I knew how that worked. And it's that part of the dossier that constitutes the quality section. So once you have everything ready is when you apply for approval to the authorities, and they have to assess it, and they come back with questions, and then you respond to questions. And once everybody's happy, then is when they approve the medicine, and then the patient can have it. Once you change anything in the process, or if you want to see another indication, so not just to treat Parkinson's, but it could be used to treat epilepsy, for example, then you have to apply for a new indication, and that takes time as well. And you have to prove with a lot of documentation that what you are asking for is proved to be good, safe, and efficacious. And that's where I am. At the moment, I am a regulatory affairs consultant, which means that I work for myself. I don't work for any company in particular. I hire myself to other companies to support if they want some help in certain points when they have overload. And I like it. This job has offered me the opportunity to meet with lots of people everywhere in the world, because I have worked with submissions done in Australia or South Africa, Canada, some in Japan, mainly Europe, but it's been very good. So I think I have had a wide experience within my area. My mother actually was pharmacist as well, and she had a pharmacy, and I liked to be there, potting around when I was little. But then I decided that I was more inclined towards doing some research, and then that's how I started my professional journey, doing research and then moving on within a multinational environment. I always like multinational environment. I like meeting people with different countries, learn their cultures, and it's so interesting. I love it. And I have to say that I have got friends, and I keep in touch with people I have met in all my stages in my life, and it's brilliant. You make friends for life. Sometimes you have to make some effort too, but it's very interesting. So I hope this has given you an idea of my work as a pharmacist in different areas. You can be a pharmacist in a hospital as well, and then you work very close to doctors to see if there are any interactions with medicines, or see their conditions of the patients, because pharmacy is something in the middle between medicine, chemistry, biology. We do lots of chemistry. We study some medicine, biology, because you have to see how physiology, the way the body works, and where there could be a problem. Nutrition, I have studied food, bromatology is called. I have studied botany, which is the study of plants, because you probably know this, the beginning of pharmacy was based in plants. We used, we know they used plants to treat diseases, and the basic of the current medicines is exactly that. They are based on medicinal plants and their active principles that you can find it. And it's good. I mean, you can have herbs that you would use for food, and you can tell that the origin of the use for food of some plants, now called the herbs, is because they facilitate the digestion. For example, thyme is a good product to facilitate the digestion. If you have some aniseed, it's good for gases. And that helps the digestion as well. Rosemary is also good for that. So it all makes sense when you think about things and the origin of why they could be used for food, because it helps in the body systems and how the body would work best. So if you have any problems or any questions about this, then please let your teachers know, and I can always be responded to some more questions via email to your teachers. And I hope you have learned something. I hope somebody is thinking now, maybe this is a field for me to get into. And at the moment, the world needs science and scientists to improve things that we have. And I encourage you to study science, actually. So I hope you've liked it. And I'll tell you something about, just to finish, about this COVID vaccine. You may heard that maybe they have approved it too quickly, and if it's safe or not. And yes, it is safe. There's enough data. The authorities wouldn't have approved if there was any doubts about the safety in patients. Now you are getting some data from after use, and they seem very reasonable and good. I was a bit dubious about having the vaccine at the beginning, actually, and then no, I am convinced, yeah, I want to have the vaccine because it helps. And there's ways to approve the medicines quickly, but what they call conditional approval, which means that there's still some questions to reply, but the data they've got are good enough to approve it. And so that's why the authorities are approving the vaccines that are now available. So that's it. I hope you want to learn and to study pharmacy someday or something related. That would be brilliant. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and take good care and study. You have to study. Bye.